The sun blazed over the cracked pavement of Gator Ridge Raceway in northern Florida, where the annual summer showdown was underway. The track buzzed with the thunder of engines and the chatter of confident drivers. Muscle cars lined the pits, freshly waxed and polished, each one a gleaming monument to money and prestige. In the middle of all this shine and flash, a mismatched old Mustang pulled into the lineup, drawing confused glances and barely suppressed laughter. It was a beat-up 1967 fastback, painted in dull primer gray with rust peeking through the edges. The rear fender was dented, the hood latch replaced with a leather strap, and the right side view mirror looked like it came from a completely different car. It stood out like a scar at a beauty contest. From the driver's side stepped a young woman in a dusty baseball cap, work boots, and a grease-stained shirt. She looked out of place, especially next to the chrome-covered racers and their sponsored pit crews. Her name was Lena. At 21, she had more experience under hoods than most of the boys revving their engines beside her. Her father, Mark Hart, had been a respected mechanic for decades. He owned a modest auto shop a few miles out of town. People brought him cars others wouldn't touch. He never got rich, but he knew cars inside and out, and he passed that knowledge to his daughter. Lena didn't grow up with money, but she grew up with motors. While other kids played video games, she rebuilt carburetors. Her weekends weren't spent shopping or partying, but holding a flashlight while her dad fixed stubborn alternators. The Mustang was a junkyard rescue, flooded, gutted, and written off as dead. But to Lena and her father, it was the perfect project. They had spent 2 years restoring it together, piece by piece. Every part came from trade deals, scrapyard visits, or long weekends spent disassembling wrecks. There was no sponsorship, no professional paint job, no high-tech gadgets, just sweat, stubbornness, and skill. But none of that mattered to the other racers watching her pull up to the start line. One guy leaned over to his friend and said loudly, "I think someone took a wrong turn out of the recycling center." Another laughed. "She better hope it holds together for a full lap." Lena didn't respond. She checked her tire pressure one more time, adjusted her gloves, and gave a subtle nod to her dad across the pit lane. He stood with his arms crossed, watching quietly, pride hidden behind a weathered face and tired eyes. When her name was called for the qualifying round, the crowd barely looked up. The Mustang grumbled to life and rolled onto the track like a relic. But the moment the green flag waved, everything changed. The car launched off the line with a deep, aggressive growl. Its acceleration wasn't flashy, but it was powerful, controlled. Lena hit the first corner with precision, braking just enough, hugging the inside, and shooting out of it with speed that made a few heads turn. By the end of the first lap, the mockery had faded. She was clean, fast, technical. Lap after lap, she didn't just stay in the race. She outpaced half the grid. Mechanics and racers alike stood a little straighter. Spectators checked their programs. Who was this girl with the junkyard car, driving like she'd been racing for years? When the final lap ended, she wasn't just the mechanic's daughter anymore. She had qualified for the finals. And waiting for her there was the track's golden boy, Chad Bronson, with his fully tuned ZL1 Camaro and a smirk that said he still wasn't worried. Not yet. Engines thundered at the start line as the sun dipped lower behind the trees, casting long shadows over the racetrack. This was the final round of the Gator Ridge Summer Showdown, and the crowd's energy had shifted completely. What started as laughter at an old Mustang was now electric anticipation. Lena Hart, the underdog, had made it to the final. Beside her, Chad Bronson revved his custom ZL1 Camaro, paint gleaming, engine snarling. He was the favorite, sponsored, experienced, and undefeated on this track. But something in his face had changed. Earlier he was amused. Now he looked alert, maybe even worried. The flagman raised his arm. Lena adjusted her grip on the wheel, her gloves tight with sweat. Her father stood at the far end of the pit lane, arms crossed, nodding just once. The green flag dropped. They launched. Chad's Camaro roared forward with raw, explosive power, taking the early lead like everyone expected. His tires bit into the pavement as the muscle car surged down the first straight. Lena's Mustang stayed right behind, slower on the launch, but tighter on the line. They hit the first corner, and Chad swung wide, as always, relying on his horsepower to recover on the exit. But Lena had studied him. She knew he took that corner too confidently every single time. She stayed tight inside and closed the distance. It wasn't flashy, but it was smart. Lap 1, Chad ahead, barely. The crowd was already shouting. Spectators who hadn't paid attention to Lena before were now on their feet. The girl with the salvaged Mustang was holding her own, and more. Lap 2, Lena stayed right behind him, never pushing recklessly, just learning his rhythm. She saw when he braked too late, when he came out wide on curve 3, and how he floored the gas a half-second early on the downhill stretch. By lap 3, she was no longer chasing, she was pressuring. Her Mustang may have looked old, but under the hood it was a beast, every gear shift smooth, every move clean. She'd built it to run, not impress. Chad's crew waved frantically from the pit wall. He glanced in the mirror and realized she was too close, too calm. She wasn't overdriving. She was waiting for him to make a mistake. Final lap. Adrenaline pumped through Lena's chest. She tightened her arms, steadied her breathing, and focused on the one corner she knew could change everything, the final hairpin before the homestretch. She'd seen Chad take it too fast every lap. He always trusted his Camaro's weight to carry him through. But this time Lena was close enough to make him nervous. As they reached the final turn, Chad did what he always did, braked late and turned wide, trying to maintain speed. But this time he overstepped just a little too much. His back tire skidded half a foot into the edge. Lena dove inside. With perfect timing and fearless grip, she slipped past him on the inner line, downshifted, and launched out of the corner with every bit of power her Mustang had. The crowd went wild. The finish line rushed toward them. Chad hit the gas, trying to close the gap, but it was too late. Lena crossed first, by a car length. The stadium erupted. Her dad stood still for a second, then let out a deep breath and clapped once, proud and quiet. As Lena stepped out of her car, flashbulbs popped and fans swarmed. The same people who laughed at her that morning were now chanting her name. Chad walked over, helmet off, chest heaving. He paused, then extended a hand. That was real racing, he admitted. Lena shook it, smiling just enough. Thanks, I've had practice. That night, she didn't just win a race. She changed how everyone looked at her, and at every girl like her who grew up in a garage, dreaming bigger than their town ever allowed. Because sometimes, the loudest engine isn't the one that starts the fastest. It's the one that refuses to be silenced.